How to improve child behavior problems. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. I'm going to answer that for you. Okay, let me just tell you real quick, if you are not familiar with my background, I've earned training degrees in 2 PhD areas, plus I have 2 master's degrees and a bachelor's degree, all surrounding the idea of how we can improve brain performance to improve our development across the lifespan and then degeneration as we get older. So I've worked with kids for a really long time, and children that have behavior issues, I'm here to tell you that typically they are using a dysregulated brain pattern. Now, what I'm talking about is the way that their brain is using electrical energy. And science proves what I'm telling you is true. I'm just the messenger. So if your child acts out and is tantruming or is not compliant or has any compulsive types of behaviors, or if there's any defiance, typically their brain is using too much fast electrical energy and too much slow energy simultaneously. And so it's kind of like their brain is pumping the brakes and the gas at the same time. And it leads to a lot of developmental delays and disorders and behavioral challenges. Now, what helps a kiddo is by increasing perfect processing speed in their brain and taking the feet, theoretically, off of the fast and the slow speed in the brain so that the brain can just use perfect processing speed and behaviors go away and focusing is easier, getting schoolwork done is easier, not feeling anxious, feeling calm and focused, as I always talk about it. Now, the number one way that you can do that is with neurofeedback and a home neurofeedback program that I offer through my private practice, Leigh Brain and Spine, or through my coaching programs at Dr. Trish Leigh would be a perfect fit. But I'm always about giving you information, which is how you can get top-notch support through neurofeedback, but strategies that you can use at home also. So a number one strategy that you can use is if your child is acting out and using behaviors that are unacceptable or inappropriate, so if they're throwing things, if they're screaming, if they're kicking, and I've worked with kids that have done things that are so much worse than that. Kids with oppositional defiant disorder, their goal is to be oppositional and defiant. I've worked with kids that will urinate in the kitchen, that will do things that you could never imagine. If your child is doing any of those things, their brain is definitely using fast and slow speed. What you can do is gently guide their brain back into, or as close as possible, to perfect processing speed using the speed in your brain. Brain's attuned. And what that means is if you do not let them get you mad or angry or anxious or stressed out, if you do not buy into that, but you have to literally be able to keep your brain calm, you will affect their brain and you will calm them down. And this is a skill that I have been practicing as the mother of 5 children for 17 and a half years. So when my kids are extra anxious or if they're mad, I let them go. I let them get that out. But at this point also, they know that it's not, that acceptable for too long. But I will let them feel their feelings and let them get that out. But then I will use my brain to regulate them. I will use my calm demeanor to tell them that they need to be able to calm themselves down. And after a time, your child will either poop out or they will be able to calm themselves down, especially if you have a behavior management routine in place. And I definitely recommend working with a coach or a counselor to get a routine like that in place so that the expectations of how a tantrum is going to go are already set out at the outset of a tantrum. So for example, if your child is on the brink of having a tantrum, you could set the timer so that they have 5 seconds to get themselves together. If they are not able to get themselves together, they have to remove themselves to their room. Now, that requires them to be able to do that. And after a while, many kids are able to do that. They can go to their room, have the tantrum, and then the consequences, you have to go somewhere else because You don't want to upset everybody else. So if you cannot handle being in the kitchen right now, then you need to go to your room until you can handle being in the kitchen. Then, if your child's able to do that, they go to the room, they have their tantrum. If they cannot get themselves together after 3 minutes, and usually the rule is 1 minute for every year that they are alive. So let's say they can't get themselves together after 5 minutes, after 7 minutes, you can go in and try to de-escalate them using more strategies if you have them. But now let's say your child won't leave the kitchen. Now what do? You leave the kitchen. It takes two to tango. So if you leave the kitchen, they no longer have the ammunition of what they were trying to do because there's no audience. So you tell them, I will be back in 5 minutes. And if we're able to continue with the activity we were doing, then we will. And if not, then I will have to leave again. And when you leave, that is the consequence. There's no longer anybody for them to do that with. Yes, I know what some of you are thinking, that your child might destroy something. There has to be consequences in place for all of their behaviors. So their positive behaviors earn privileges, their negative behaviors get consequences. So if you leave the kitchen and your child takes the pan and smashes a drawer, there is a consequence that needs to be delivered. That is the behavior management program. Without it, the behaviors may continue forever. That's the role that neurofeedback plays, because likely if your child's brain is pumping the gas and the brakes, they will not be able to self-regulate very well. When they have neurofeedback therapy, and now it's available at home, which is just clutch during COVID-19, when they have neurofeedback therapy, it literally brings their brain back into perfect processing speed of its own volition. They don't have to try. Then when you use these strategies, they actually work and it creates a positive feedback loop. But in the meantime, you could try the strategies because it will affect change in their brain and in the dynamics. And I hope that helps you out. And I know it's a tricky situation, but visit my website at drtrishleigh.com for more information and more tips to help you out. Okay, remember, control your brain or it'll control you.